priye vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripasindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we begin chapter 17 of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is the ocean of the nectar of the mellow of devotion. It's the science of devotional service as described by Srila Rupa Goswami. And today we're doing chapter 17. We're actually starting a new section which is called Bhava Bhakti. It's a very special chapter. This is now from sadhana. The devotee is moving on to bhava, which is a very high stage of devotional service. After Raganuga, which we discussed in detail last time, we finished that last time, which is Raganuga itself is spontaneous devotional service, Raganuga sadhana bhakti. But now that same spontaneous devotional service becomes fully intensified. So here we find the summary of this chapter. This and chapter 18 in the third wave of the are in the third wave of the first ocean. This wave is devotional service in ecstasy or bhava, the preliminary stage of love of God. This is no longer sadhana bhakti. One at this stage is an uttama adhikari. Chapter 17 defines what bhava is and how it can be attained. So those of you who have already taken nectar of instruction, you know that there's a Kanishta Adhikari, the Madhyam Adhikari, and the Uttam Adhikari. The Uttam Adhikari is the highest caliber of a devotee. So here it's being mentioned that a person on the stage of bhava is a devotee on the stage of Uttam Adhikari. He's an Uttam Adhikari devotee. So now we see what is bhava and how is it attained. Now this knowledge is very esoteric, it's very confidential, and this knowledge is given to us by the mercy of Srila Rupa Goswami, even though we're not ready for it in some ways. So, but still, why is he giving it to us? He's giving it to us, it's very relevant to us, because in this way the goal is clear. He's giving it to us so we know what the goal is. If we don't even know what the goal is, then how will we try to attain it one day? So though we may not be ready for this, we're still, on the platform of sadhana, trying every day, struggling with our senses every day. And bhava is beyond that stage, but the goal must be clear, and that is what is defined here. So the definition of bhava bhakti is given here. Shuddha sattva visheshatma prema suryang samya bhak ruchibhish chitta mashinya krid aso bhava uchyate. When devotional service is situated on the transcendental platform of pure goodness, it is like a ray of the sunlight of love for Krishna. At such a time, devotional service causes the heart to be softened by various tastes, and it is called bhava, or emotion. So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that right now the problem is that our heart is very hard. Our heart is very black and it's very hard. It's hard like iron. But to experience love of God, our heart has to be like butter. This is why the quality of a great devotee is they're very soft-hearted, very compassionate, paradukha dukhi. They have no desires for themselves, but they're willing to give but they're concerned only for the suffering of others. They're sacrificing themselves for the benefit of others. So that is the heart being softened. So when devotional service causes the heart to be softened, such that when we chant, we feel love of God, that is the stage of bhava or emotion. Lord Chaitanya said that if we chant and tears of love do not artificial tears, but real tears of love of God do not appear from our eyes, then that means our heart is still hard like stone. So at this stage, because of the mercy of the Lord, which is like a ray of sunlight, and the devotional service of a devotee, the devotee's heart has become like butter, has become very soft. So in all these stages, you may remember, Rupa Goswami gives primary characteristics of every stage and also secondary characteristics of every stage. So here he is giving the primary characteristic of bhava. It is Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma. Off of this same verse that we were reading, Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma. The first line is telling us it is a stage when Shuddha Sattva enters the devotee's heart. Shuddha Sattva is not the material mode of goodness, but the Lord's internal potency, whose function is to revive the living entity's dormant love for Krishna. So we say there's three gunas, Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. And Krishna makes it very clear in the Gita, Trai Gunya Vishya Veda, Nistrai Gunya Bhavarjuna, Nirvandho Sattvasto, Yogakshemam Mahamyam, that, oh Arjuna, rise beyond these three modes of material nature, become transcendental to them. So we are told to even rise beyond the mode of goodness. So then what stage should we go to? Well, we should still aspire for goodness, because goodness is very close to the transcendental stage, which is called Shuddha Sattva, or pure goodness. But this Shuddha Sattva is different than the mode of goodness. This is the transcendental mode. This is the spiritual, you could say, transcendental mode, which is beyond all material designations. This mode of nature, this is not a material mode. This is a completely spiritual mode, Shuddha Sattva. This is a stage by which one cannot fall down into the lower modes again. The problem with the material mode of goodness also is that we are on the stage of goodness for some time, but then after that we fall again to passion and ignorance. But in Shuddha Sattva, which is the stage of bhava, this is pure goodness. This is the transcendental platform, association with Krishna. On that platform, we cannot fall down again. The whole spiritual world is made of Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness. The devotee is spiritual body is Shuddha Sattva. The Lord's spiritual body is Shuddha Sattva. This is the spiritual element, the pure goodness. As Srila Prabhupada notes, when a person reaches the level of bhava, they are to be understood to be uttama adhikaris. So the first characteristic is that the person in bhava, primary characteristic is that the person of bhava is situated in Shuddha Sattva. The secondary characteristics are that at this level, one's heart becomes very soft, and it gives this bhakti gives rise to various tastes. Many spiritual, you could say, tastes become manifest as a result of this practice. So one starts to taste the mellows of ecstatic love. One feels very ecstatic when one chants. One feels great ecstasy when one sees the deity. When one reads Srimad Bhagavatam, when one eats Krishna Prasadam. So all these are different tastes in devotional service. And the devotee in bhava is experiencing these and on a very high level of connection with Krishna. So the secondary characteristics, the Sanskrit for this is ruchi bhi. It gives rise to various tastes. What are these tastes? A, prapti abhilasha, the desire to achieve Krishna. So we all have the desire to achieve Krishna, but we have that desire. We remember that desire when we're in the association of devotees. We remember that desire when we are reading Bhagavad Gita or chanting our rounds, but we are not always absorbed in that desire. But on this stage, one's eagerness to achieve Krishna is so strong that um, one is always one is always living just to achieve Krishna. One is constantly searching for Krishna. Like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshashtakam, he says, um, 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 I'm forgetting how that starts. It's, I think, the seventh verse.
युगायितं निमिषेण प्रभु.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, Prabhu is reconnecting. Something happened. He's reconnecting.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare.
Hare Krishna.
Mhm. Just sharing my screen now. Okay, so the desire to achieve Krishna at every moment. This is the first quality, the secondary quality of Bhava Bhakti. The second one is Anukulya Abhilasha, the desire to please Krishna with various services. So this is, you'll see in advanced devotees, they're continuously wanting to expand their services to Krishna. Anukulya Abhilasha. Continuously, they're expanding their services. You think they're already doing so much service, but they want to do more and more service and serve Krishna in different ways, in all ways. And that's a sign of bhava. And the last one is Sauharda Abhilasha, the desire to be close at heart with Krishna. So not just serving Krishna, achieving Krishna, but the heart is there. One is doing it intentionally with full love and focus, the desire to be close at heart with Krishna. So elevation to the stage of bhava is possible in two ways. We may wonder, how can I attain this stage when I'm so far away? There's two simple ways, and we all can achieve it. The first is constant association with devotees. This is what is mentioned in the beginning of the chapter as regulated devotional service. So the constant devotional service, this is very important. This is continuously engaging in the devotional service of the Lord. Very important. And second one, the special mercy of Krishna or a pure devotee. By the mercy of a devotee, we can get bhava. Now notice that both of these ways are related with devotees. So how important is the association of devotees? Elevation to bhava, it doesn't say here by chanting 64 rounds or going and doing different parikramas. It says, Rupa Goswami is saying the first method is constant association with devotees. The second method is a special mercy of Krishna or a pure devotee. So both are ways of elevating ourselves to the platform bhava. And both are related with the devotee. The usual method is constant association with devotees. The other is rare. So one should render service very seriously in association of devotees. So what does association mean? Right? What does constant association with devotees means? Constant association with devotees means service. Because what do devotees do? Devotees don't sit around and watch TV and just gossip. Devotees are serving. So our relationship with devotees deepens through service. You see, people say, I don't have nice relationships with devotees. Well, one way to improve those relationships is to engage in more service. Because especially even the advanced devotees, our relationship with them, our connection with them deepens when we offer some service. Some notable service, especially then they become very obliged. My Guru Maharaj, he says that the spiritual master becomes very obliged when we preach Krishna consciousness. So when we're preaching, we're doing it actually for ourselves. Because we know that by doing this, we'll become dear to Krishna's devotees. And this way we'll get their association. And the second method is rare because this is like special mercy where for no reason, A devotee just gives us the mercy and we get bhava. And, we all want the lottery, but not everyone wins the lottery, right? So we may get the lottery, but we cannot just want Krishna and his devotees to serve us and give us things for free. We must also work for it. So why did Srila Prabhupada give us so many services if the method to attain bhava is constant association? Because it is through the service that we get the association. And it is in the association that we are serving. And we should only serve in association. I was listening to some lectures by a devotee by the name of Mahotsava Prabhu, who's the world's, the ISKCON's, one of ISKCON's biggest book distributors. In one day, he distributed 5,000 books. He made the world record. He distributed 5,000 books, imagine. And he was telling that on the streets, sometimes when he's distributing books, then out of their own heart, people will walk up to him and say, I want to give you a donation. And they'll give a donation for $1,000. It's not anything material, it's not ordinary. Why? He's not extraordinarily, anything. He's, very dark-skinned. He's, he's from India originally. There's no reason why Americans should come and trust him and give him so much. But it's just from the heart, right? The connection, that association, his association inspires people to give. And then they give. But one thing interesting that he was telling about his life is that he said that when I go on book distribution, he said, I never go out alone. I never distribute alone. He says, I always distribute in the association of another devotee. Imagine he's the world's biggest book distributor. He does 5,000 books a day. Krishna is like acting through him. But he always goes with one more devotee because he wants to serve in association. He's feeling that if I go alone, Maya may catch me and I may fall down. He's a brahmachari. It's especially very important for him that he goes with someone. And this is the humility of a devotee, but also this is the process of bhakti. So he is seeking the association of another devotee in his service, and he is giving association to so many people and making them devotees through that. His name is Mahotsava Prabhu, very nice devotee. His lectures are not many, he gave some seminars on book distribution. It's on YouTube. It's very amazing, his mood. That he never goes alone. He always goes out with another devotee. An example is Narad Muni in his previous life. He served in the association of the great devotees and came to the level of bhava. So the best example of this, the example that proves the point, is Narad Muni. Because Narad Muni, according to the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, according to the Nectar devotion, is the saint of bhakti. So this book, Nectar Devotion, is about bhakti, and the saint of bhakti is Narad Muni. So he's the exemplar. He's the saint of this process. And Narad Muni was a very ordinary boy, but he becomes the greatest devotee of the Lord. How? Simply by the association of the great devotees of the Lord. So this is the story of Narad Muni, which is now narrated in this chapter. It comes from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Narad Muni himself tells his own story. So Narad Muni says, I was born as an insignificant son of a maidservant. He didn't know who his father was. His mother was a maidservant, but somehow she was a maidservant in the ashram of great souls, an ashram that was meant for great souls. Once during the 4 months of the rainy season, which is the time when the sadhus do not travel due to the rainy season, some exalted Vaishnavas came to the Brahmana school where my mother was living. So she was, one of the, you could say, caretakers there in the school. And Narad Muni was also there. I also got the opportunity to render personal service unto them. Although impartial by nature, they blessed me with their causeless mercy, because even though I was only a small boy, I was self-controlled. I did not speak more than required. I was not naughty, nor interested in childish play. Once, with their permission, I took the remnants of their food, and as a result, all of my sins were eradicated. Because of this, and due to serving such great souls, the life of devotional service to the Lord became very attractive to me. So Chaitanya Charitamrita describes that there's two substances that are extremely powerful in awakening our love for God. One is the remnants of the food from the devotees of the Lord, and the other is the dust from the lotus feet of the devotees of the Lord. These are the two things by which we can get the mercy of Krishna. So because he got the remnants and he was serving them so nicely, the devotees were pleased with him and they allowed him to have the remnants. They gave their heartfelt blessings to him. And as a result of that, the life of devotional service became very attractive to him. This is the start of bhakti. Bhakti begins when we get the association of a devotee. All of us can look back in our life and say, it was this association, it was this service that I did, which inspired my devotional life, that brought it to another level. And that's what happened to Narad Muni. He became very attracted to serving Krishna. In their association, I heard the narrations of Lord Krishna's transcendently attractive pastimes. By such regular and attentive hearing, my taste for such topics increased at every step. So, important to note that association also, a very important part of association is hearing. Unless we hear from the devotee, we don't understand their heart. I mentioned how there's two substances that are so powerful, the remnants of the food and the dust from the lotus feet of a devotee. Srila Prabhupada tells us that dust from the devotee means sound, hearing. When we hear from them, we are receiving that foot dust. We are receiving that mercy. So he hears from them, and these narrations became very, very attractive to him. He started to listen to these wonderful discussions, and it made sense to him. It became very much part of him. When this transcendental taste became very strong, my attention became fully fixed on hearing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As a result, the modes of passion and ignorance vanished from my heart, and I realized myself to be different from the gross and subtle bodies. I loved those pure devotees greatly, and with very gentle behavior, I strictly followed their instructions. So, a nice quality about Narad Muni is that he had very gentle behavior. And he had great love for the pure devotees of the Lord. He just wanted to serve them with all his heart. And as a result of these two qualities, the devotees became very happy of his gentleness and his seriousness in spiritual life, his sincerity. And as a result of hearing these narrations, ignorance and passion vanished from within his heart. So here's a sadhaka who's now turning into a bhava bhakta. When they were about to depart, they instructed me in bhakti yoga. So as sadhus do, they come and go. And these were genuine sadhus. They're not the charlatan sadhus, but the real ones. And as they were departing, they gave him instructions. These instructions become the life and soul of a devotee. Prabhupada says that the instructions that he received from his spiritual master were his life and soul. And he was able to spread Krishna consciousness all around the world just because of the instruction of his spiritual master and because of following that instruction. He said, if I have only one credit, if I have any credit, he says, the credit is that I followed the instructions of my spiritual master. So when they were about to depart, they instructed me in bhakti yoga. One day, so now they've departed. Narad Muni is still at the hermitage. Narad Muni is still continuing his devotional service. He's still very much, I mean, he's deeply in devotional service, but still there's more tests. One day, while going out to milk a cow, my mother was bitten by a serpent and died. The one person in this world who was taking care of him, he didn't have a father, he didn't know who his father was. He was the son of a maidservant, so from a very humble family. That one person, his mother, even Krishna took away his mother. And when this happened, Narad Muni says, how great spiritually he was. He says, rather than crying, rather than lamenting, he said, I took this as the special mercy of the Lord. Because he could understand that he was detached, but he was still very attached to his mother. And Krishna wanted to make him fully dependent only upon him. Now, of course, attachment to one's mother or father is not a bad thing. In fact, it's a very nice thing. But Narad Muni's level, we have to understand, was of a completely different level. He was, he was on the spiritual transcendental level. So Krishna made this arrangement, as we will see, to make him completely dedicated to him. And similarly, his mother also attained perfection because she was the mother of a pure devotee. She was serving the sadhus. At some point of time, we all need to go. And so the Lord chose this as a particular way in which his mother would leave this world. So knowing all this, Narad Muni took this as the Lord's special mercy. Even though I had no experience of foreign lands, I immediately left home and started for the north. After this happens, he's all alone, so he starts to travel. And he begins to experience the Lord's creation. After passing numerous cities, towns, villages, farms, forests, mountains, and valleys, I entered a densely dark jungle with snakes, owls, and jackals. Since I had become very thirsty and fatigued, I drank the water and bathed to refresh myself. So in nature, Krishna is given everything, yet it's very dangerous, but he was fearless. And this is the quality of a great devotee. We were discussing just yesterday that they are fearless. So he was fearless and he was depending on the mercy and protection of Krishna. Then I sat down under the shade of a great banyan tree and began to meditate upon the Supreme Soul within, as I had learned from my spiritual masters. So he was meditating on the Super Soul within, and he had learned this from his spiritual masters. He was trained. You see, sometimes we receive instructions from devotees, and we see that sometimes people, after that association, they leave that association. They, become busy in something, they forget to, they don't continue the process. But whatever instructions they have been given at one point in life, it becomes very handy. Whatever we have learned, whatever we have done, service, whatever we have read, when we really need it, then it comes in handy. Just like, again, we're distributing these books, and people may think, these people, they're taking it and they are not really looking for it, and they put it on their bookshelf and they're enjoying life. What is the point of this? No one is reading these books. People say this sometimes. But we must understand that when they are in difficulty, and that may not happen today or tomorrow, it may happen after 10 years, when they have challenges, at that point, they will open these books. At that point, they will read Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. And we don't know for whom it may happen when. Narad Muni is just a young boy, but for him, it happened very early in his life, where he could fully meditate upon and utilize the instructions that he received. And in this way, transcend that material problem. In this way, pull himself out of that situation and come to the spiritual level. For someone else, it may be at the age of 60. We don't know. But at some point in life, we will all need to face this. As soon as I concentrated my mind upon the lotus feet of the Lord, it became transformed due to transcendental love. As tears fell from my eyes, Lord Shri Krishna appeared on the lotus of my heart And then all my senses became spiritually enlightened. So he was such a nice devotee, so sincere, that Krishna appeared in the lotus of his heart. Again, we read these stories and we think, oh, well, this is Narad Muni. This isn't for me. But this can happen to us also. If we actually take our chanting seriously. Prabhupada says, through the chanting of Hare Krishna, everything can be realized. If we actually meditate like Narad Muni is meditating on the Lord, then Krishna will appear within our heart. We will be able to see Krishna and ascertain his presence in our heart. And especially service to the devotees is very powerful in reaching this stage. Thus, when the Lord vanished from my sight, I suddenly got up with great agitation. So Krishna appears in his heart, but then Krishna vanishes. Despite my efforts to capture him with my meditation, I could not do so. So after he sees Krishna in his heart, he is not able to reproduce that experience. He sits down again and he meditates and he meditates, but Krishna is not coming. He had meditated so nicely, the Lord came, and then the Lord leaves. He gives up that vision. And then he tries again. He does the same exact process again. But he doesn't come. And this shows that the process of bhakti is not mechanical. Though it's an experiment, it still requires the mercy of Krishna. It's not an experiment that we can just repeat at any time. Because it's not that we do, a certain formula and then Krishna is required to appear in our heart. Krishna is independent, and the process itself is practice and also grace, mercy. So he got this mercy. Krishna revealed his beauty, and we see there's so many devotees when they come to Krishna consciousness, they get such reciprocation from the Lord because the Lord wants to inspire them. But then the Lord also tests them. So he tests Narad Muni now. Upon seeing my sincere attempts, in this lonely place, the Lord, while remaining invisible, spoke to me with gravity and pleasing words, just to mitigate my sorrow. O Narada, I regret to inform you that you will not be able to see me again during this lifetime. Those who are not free from all material contamination can hardly approach me. So he tells Narad Muni, see, seeing the Lord is not an ordinary thing. It's not something cheap. So he tells Narad Muni that I have shown you my form to increase your affection for me, so that you are convinced that I'm here with you. But now in this lifetime, you won't see me again. Now in this lifetime, you must practice devotional service and make yourself qualified. Just the fact that you've given up the world and you're living in the forest doesn't make us qualified. We have to develop our love for Krishna. And he was not mature in his devotional practice. He was still immature. So he had to perform the process of bhakti. By my mercy, neither your advancement in Krishna consciousness nor your remembrance will ever be impeded, even at time of creation or annihilation. So even at this time of creation and annihilation, Narad Muni doesn't lose his memory of Krishna. He is always cognizant of Krishna. Then that supreme authority, personified by sound and unseen by the eyes, but most wonderful, stopped speaking. Lord, thus I began chanting the holy name and fame of the Lord by repeated recitation. So what does Narad Muni do? And where do we get our process from? Thus I began chanting the holy name and fame of the Lord by repeated recitation, ignoring all the formalities of the world. So doing, I traveled all over the world, all over the earth, fully satisfied, humble, and unenvious. So he began chanting the holy name after that. This is the way when we're feeling separation from Krishna, the way to connect with him is the holy name. Through the chanting, we connect. Through the chanting, we become we ascertain his presence and we can overcome the separation. So through repeated recitation, he began chanting the holy name of Krishna. Mahajana yena gata sapanta. Because Narad Muni is a Mahajan and Narad Muni is doing this, therefore we are doing this. And he says, ignoring all the formalities of the material world. If we really want to chant, we will have to ignore some of the you could say formalities that the materialists do, which may make us not so popular in their eyes. But that is okay. That is, see, even Narad Muni is doing that. He is traveling like a mendicant all over the world. In due course of time, I met with death. Thereafter appeared as one of Lord Brahma's sons. Since then, I have been traveling, constantly singing the transcendental message of the Lord, vibrating this instrument called a veena, which is charged with transcendental sound, and which was given to me by Lord Krishna. So he gives up that body at a certain point, but death for a devotee is not darkness. How has he described here? He said, well, it's not here. Was it here? I thought I read it. No, it's not here. That death was like lightning for the devotee. There's darkness and illumination simultaneously. So death is generally compared to the night, to darkness. For materialists, death is like darkness. You die and then you go into another material body covered by ignorance, covered by illusion, conditioned, some desires and some species. Maybe you're born as a cow or a dog or a tiger or an elephant or a lion. But a devotee is not born in a material body. So it's darkness and lightning simultaneously. He's born in a spiritual body as Narad Muni, the transcendental spaceman, the transcendental musician, traveling all around the world, chanting. What is he doing even now? Even after liberation, he is continuously singing the glories of the Lord. He's continuously chanting the name of the Lord on his veena. He has a spiritual instrument and he's continuously chanting. So this is the beauty of the Lord. So one quick thing, that why did Krishna not appear again in that same lifetime? As I mentioned, he did this to increase the longing, to increase Narad Muni's desire to achieve the Lord. When we get something very valuable and we lose it, we want it even more. We become so greedy to get it. So Krishna does this to the devotee, where he will allow the devotee to be in separation to increase their desire. And who else does he do this to? He did this also to the gopis. It was only, you could say, an external reason that, the gopis became proud, therefore Krishna left. No, they're liberated souls. Their pride was only superficial, external, just to teach us. But Krishna left the gopis to increase their love for him. Because love in separation is higher than love in union. Love in separation increases the love of the devotee and increases the love in union. So this is also in the Christian tradition. It's called the dark night of the soul. The dark night of the soul is when the devotee gives up the material world. He's not interested in material things anymore. He's not, aspiring for material things anymore. And also at the same time, Krishna also becomes hidden to that devotee. Krishna does not reveal himself to that devotee. So the devotee does not have a material life and the devotee does not see Krishna. The devotee also becomes spiritually, you could say, vacant in some ways, or spiritually ignored by the Lord. And so the devotee is lost. He's feeling, what has happened? The Lord has forsaken me. But it's in those times, in those moments, that the Lord manifests even more. In that separation, the devotee finds union. The Supreme Lord Krishna, whose glories and activities are pleasing to the ear, at once appears on the seat of my heart, as if called for as soon as I begin to chant his holy activities. So Krishna appears in the seat of the heart of that devotee as soon as they chant the holy name of Krishna. And here we see, this is the story of Narad Muni. Now he is Narad Muni, this transcendental spiritual spaceman who's traveling all around the world, just increasing the ecstasy of love of God, giving it to everyone. And many of the great saints that we know in our tradition, they're disciples of Narad Muni. They become great souls because of Narad Muni. Narad Muni himself is a Bhava Bhakta, and they become Bhava Bhaktas because of Narad Muni's association. The most famous example of this is Prahlad Maharaj, who heard from Narad Muni for 100 celestial years within the womb. This is how much one can hear the glories of Krishna, how much we should hear. We hear, once a week, twice a week, and we think, oh, it's so much. But the devotee is never empty. The cessation, there's no cessation of hearing in his life. He's always hearing about the glories of Krishna. The examples of special mercy from the devotees, from the Lord and his devotees, Rupa Goswami in the Nectar Devotion in chapter 17, he gives various examples of devotees who are now in the second category. So now we've covered the first category. Remember, going back here just to revive our memory, there are two ways in which we could get Bhava Bhakti. What was the first way? Who knows? Who remembers what was the first way to get Bhava Bhakti?
Devotee association.
Yes, association with devotees. So that's what we just covered. That was Narad Muni's life was the example of that. And the second way is the special mercy of Krishna or a pure devotee. That's like, the fast track causeless mercy. And there's examples of devotees like that also, who, Narad Muni worked a bit hard. He was in the forest meditating on the Lord, but these devotees, they did hardly anything and they got Bhava Bhakti simply by the mercy of the devotee. This is an example, is the girl who danced all night to get the mercy of the Lord. So some of you after this call, you can dance all night for Krishna and in this way get the Lord's mercy. Though she was not fully qualified, because the Lord, just by her dancing, became pleased, she got the mercy. Achieving bhava solely by mercy is not common. Srila Prabhupada says that one who expects to achieve bhava by mercy alone is like one who expects to complete college, not by studying hard, but by getting an honorary degree. So some people get an honorary degree, but we cannot just wait for that. Say, I won't get a job until I get an honorary degree. And if I get it, then I'll get a degree and then I can go and work. How many of us would be willing to do that? No, we all studied. Why? Because we see the value and we know that we cannot wait, or we cannot just depend on some fluke. So in the same way, bhava by mercy alone is like getting an honorary degree. But also we must recognize that people get an honorary degree. Generally, even those who get the honorary degree, they get it because of some hard work that they do. They get, some major university started, or they become a famous politician, or they become a millionaire. And then the university, like I work at Aurora University, they invite these millionaires and give them an honorary degree. And the idea is obvious that if they give them this degree, then these millionaires will donate to the university. So even there, in the case of the honorary degree, there's some effort. Not exactly the studying effort, but a different effort. In the same way, even those who get this causeless mercy, they make some effort. They at least respond to that mercy, because spiritual life is always voluntary. Just like in this case of this girl, of course, her dancing one night doesn't qualify her to become a pure devotee. There's great yogis who are meditating for thousands of years and they're not attaining the Lord. So the thing that gets her the mercy is the mercy of the Lord. The thing that gets her bhava is the mercy. because she hasn't done near as much work as other devotees have. But still, she made an effort. She danced for the Lord all night. Development of ecstatic love is simply by speaking. So here's an example of a devotee simply by speaking developed bhava bhakti, speaking about Krishna. In the Naradiya Purana, Lord Krishna said to Narada, "O best of the Brahmanas, I wish that you may develop unalloyed devotional service to me, which is full of transcendental bliss and all auspiciousness." So, Narad Muni is also an example of receiving bhava bhakti simply by speaking about Krishna, because he's traveling from one place to another and he's always speaking about Krishna. He's preaching to others about Krishna. He's telling Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj about Krishna. And these are the great kings because they become devotees and they make the whole world into devotees. So we may think, oh, Narad Muni, he just preached to a few people. But who did he preach to? He preached to the kings. And in this way, made the whole society devotees of Krishna. Developing ecstatic love toward Krishna simply by glancing. Wow, simply by getting the glance. When the inhabitants of Jangala province saw the personality of Godhead Krishna, they were so stricken with feeling that they could not withdraw their glance from him. See, this path is so rare that actually it's generally people get this when they have somehow the good fortune of actually being in Krishna's association. So when Krishna appeared in this planet, some people saw him, and just by seeing him, they got love for Krishna. Developing ecstatic love by heartfelt wishes. So this is very much possible. Prabhupada says, if we get the heartfelt blessings of the devotees, then we can make spiritual advancement. Not just cheap blessings. Oh, Maharaj, please bless me, please bless me. But heartfelt blessings when they see that we have worked very hard to become nice devotees. We have tried to study the scriptures very seriously. We have tried to chant very nicely. Then we get their heartfelt blessings. And with those blessings, we get everything. In the Shuka Samhita, Narad tells Srila Vyasadeva, you have a son who is the greatest devotee of the personality of Godhead. And I can observe that without any following of the regulated principles of devotional service, he is already enriched with many of the symptoms achieved by the execution of devotional service after many, many births. So, who was Vyasadev's son? He was Shukadeva Goswami. The Shukadeva Goswami, he's saying, you achieved became the greatest devotee of the Lord without following any regulated principles. He was an avadhuta the very moment he was born. But he's enriched with the symptoms of love of God, which normally people have to work for many, many births to get. Why? Because of the heartfelt wishes of the devotees, the blessings that he received. Developing ecstatic love by heartfelt wishes. The next example of Narada saying he cannot understand the position of Prahlad is taken to be an indication that his position must have been achieved by Krishna's special mercy. Prahlad's initial attraction for Krishna was aroused by the good wishes of Narada. So Prahlad was in the womb. He didn't do anything, absolutely nothing, to get the mercy of the Lord. But because the heartfelt wishes of Narada was there, and he instructed this child within the womb, therefore Narad Muni knew that Prahlad received the heartfelt wishes, blessings of himself and Krishna. Another example, Srila Prabhupada also mentioned that the advancement of Magrari the hunter was due to the good wishes of Narada. So this is the example of the Magrari the hunter and Narad Muni, but this is the behavior of every great devotee, that the devotee for no reason other than his good wishes will go and help others become great devotees. To a person who's completely undeserving, that's Lord Nityananda's mood, right? The person who's most undeserving, that's the person he reaches out to and brings them to Krishna consciousness. That is the mood of Sankirtan, that people are undeserving. They're not asking for it, they're not coming to the temple, they're not trying to follow anything. They are just like, in their material life, but still the devotees are approaching them. So who was Magrari the hunter? Magrari was a hunter, and he was not just any hunter, but he was the most cruel hunter. Why? Because he used to half kill animals just for fun. Like normally hunters, they kill animals because they need something to eat, and then the animal that they eat, that they kill, they eat it for food to satisfy their hunger. But Magrari, he used to hunt and kill animals just for fun. He used to kill so many animals that he could not even eat in one day or in 1 month. He was just doing it like people do today. We're a society filled with Magraris. They hunt for pleasure. Killing someone gives them pleasure. It's not even for their own survival. It's just like, let's go and kill someone because it's fun to shoot at them. And then we're surprised why in our society there's so many shootings. And so he would kill these animals just for fun. And not just that, he was so sinister that he used to half kill them. Because he liked seeing them die in, half killed, like in pain. This in Hindi, they say tarap karke marna. They were half killed so that they would be squealing in pain, and he would laugh and he would enjoy the fact that this animal was half killed, not even fully killed, so the suffering was prolonged. This is material consciousness. The suffering of others is their pleasure. They take pleasure in the suffering of others. The devotee takes pleasure in the happiness of others. So Narada Muni was once walking in this forest. The hunters are in the forest, and the great saints are also in this forest. So he was walking in this forest, and he looked around and he saw, as he was walking, this half-killed animal here, half-killed animal here, and he's thinking, who is doing this? And then as he walks, he comes across Magrari. And he sees this is Magrari the hunter. And Narada Muni was powerful enough that at that moment he could have killed Magrari just by his desire. Magrari would have died. But Narada Muni thinks that this hunter is so fallen, therefore he's acting in this way. And because he's acting in this way, I want to liberate him. And so Narada Muni starts to preach to Magrari. And Magrari, because of Narada Muni's pure influence, this is why it's very helpful to be a pure devotee if you want to preach. Just because of Narada Muni's purity, Magrari was able to understand what he was doing. Imagine, no one could explain, but he was able to understand. This is the effect of a great devotee. This is why we must seek the association of a great devotee. We must not miss the opportunity, because by his presence, his heart became purified, and Magrari stopped doing this. So only due to the wishes of Narada Muni wanted to liberate him. Therefore, Magrari got liberated. Magrari had no qualification at all, but simply by the wishes of Narada Muni. So Prabhupada says, if we can somehow or the other become the dog of a devotee, meaning that the pet of a devotee, somehow the devotee loves us, wants to uplift us, then we get everything. And by those wishes, we can become like Magrari. There's this one man who came to the book table, and he owned the restaurant next door. Like, you find these people, some people are just like, they're so in their modes, there's just no way they want to budge. So he owned the restaurant next door, and it was an Indian restaurant, Indian man, but they served meat and beef and all these things. You could see, like, his heart he wasn't wanting to take any book, but somehow or the other, he agreed to take one small Bhagavad Gita. So he was running a restaurant that serves, all types of meat, so much meat every day, how much karma he's getting, no qualification. But Prabhupada's mercy is there, that still Prabhupada found a way to go into his home through that book, through that transcendental literature. And this is the last slide here. So we're done with chapter 17. We'll stop here. I will stop here. Are there any comments, questions, clarifications? So this chapter just talks about Bhava Bhakti, what it is and how we reach it. And we cover these two paths for reaching Bhava Bhakti. Any comments, questions? Rather straightforward. Okay. So very nice. Glad you all could come. Next week, we have the temple opening here in Naperville, and it's on Saturday morning itself. The main Prana Pratishta and Abhishek, it's all Saturday morning. His Holiness Robat Swami Maharaj will be here, Chandramoli Maharaj will be here, and possibly His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj will be here in Naperville for the temple opening. Just for a short visit, he's coming for a short time. We don't have any confirmation of when exactly he's coming, or even if he's coming. But he has said that he wants to come. So that much we know. So next week, it won't be possible to meet. And if any of you are nearby or can come, please come for the temple opening. And if you're coming, just message me. I'll make arrangements for your stay. We'll, love to have your association. We'll get to meet. So please come for this wonderful occasion.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Dandvat Pranam Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.